recording. The recording should have started for everybody. All right. So just a quick reminder, please submit homework on time because I need that information to determine what problems I need to go over in class. It's due the night before, and during class, keep your camera on. I see a lot of people have theirs off. Don't chat, and you can ask questions by raising hands or the text chat. All right. Oops. All right, so for rate and average speed, last time we went over the formula D equals RT for rate and average speed, and then we also discussed for rate and speed and time. And then we also discussed average speed, and a lot of people still got confused that average speed, or I guess S, whoops, or S average is equal to the average of two other speeds. But that's not the case. It's the harmonic mean of the two speeds, given that the distances traveled are equal, which is 2s1 s2 over s1 plus s2. Just to go over that again. And you can derive this formula by saying the total distance is 2d and divided by the times, which is d over s1 plus d over s2. This fraction is a bit complex, but once you simplify it, you should get this. All right. Now, we also discussed problems where multiple people are doing work at the same rate. And for that, just remember that the rate of work being done is proportional to the amount of people doing the work, which makes sense because the more people you have working, then the faster you'll work and the more gets done. So if you have two people instead of one, it will take half the time. 2 times the amount of work is done in the same amount of time, and you work twice as fast. And I don't think there should be too many questions about this since I went over the last class, so I'll just get into the homework review. And I'll take a second to pull that up. Just hang tight. All right, so I've got all the homework problems up now, and I'll go over them. Ways. Okay, so the first problem for today is number 4. Jeremy can solve a Rubik's Cube in 4 minutes. Michael's very fast and can solve 5 cubes in 12 minutes. And working together, what's the fewest number of minutes it'll take for them to solve 10 cubes? All right, you can take a minute or two to read over this problem. And if somebody has any insights or a way to do it, you can just raise your hand. All right, so I don't really see anyone raising their hand, and I often run a bit short on time, so I'll just go over this one myself quickly. So somebody's asking me about this, so yeah, I'll go over it. So if Jeremy can solve one Rubik's Cube in 4 minutes, then his rate is essentially 1/4 of a cube per minute. And similarly, Michael is fast and he can solve 5 cubes in 12 minutes. So in 1 minute, he'll solve, I guess, 5/12 of a cube every minute. And it doesn't really make sense to solve fractional parts of cubes, but that's just the rate at which they solve, I guess. It's not like it doesn't represent an amount of cubes. And so you want to find what's the minimum amount of time it'll take for them to solve 10 cubes together. Right? Sorry, sorry about that. Right. So anyways, as I was saying, for them to solve it, the 10 cubes as fast as possible, they should be constantly working together. So their combined rate would be 1/4 plus 5/12. If you work it out, is equal to 2/3 cubes per minute together. So then the answer would be the total amount of work they need to do divided by that rate. And you would get 15 minutes. Is that clear for everybody? Because I got a question asking why the answer was what it was. All right, so someone else is asking me to re-explain. So Jeremy can solve 1 cube in 4 minutes. So like he solves one, you can say like 1/4 of a cube in 1 minute, or like he gets 1/4 of the way through solving it, I guess. And then similarly, Michael can solve 5/12 of a cube in 1 minute, or he solve 5/12 cubes per minute to find like their rate. And then you want to find their combined rate and then divide 10 cubes by that. All right, I saw Vincent raising his hand. Did you have a question?
Can Jeremy and Michael do the same cube?
Well,
because using this common sense, I got a different answer, kind of.
Like it is kind of weird, but like I think you're not, for this problem, you're not really supposed to overthink it that much. And like, yeah, I guess you should assume that like they can work on the same thing for the sake of this. And yeah, I know it doesn't really make that much sense, but like, yeah. All right. So then I'll go on to the next problem for homework review. So we have the sum of 4 consecutive even integers is equal to 3 times the smallest number. And what's the sum of the 4 integers? And so I see Lewis raising his hand. Do you have an idea for this?
So like, let's assign that the smallest one is x. And so the other ones are plus x plus 2 and x plus 4 and x plus 6. So that one equals 3x. So there is 4x plus 12 equals 3x. So x equals minus 12. So the sum equals minus 36.
Yeah, that's right. That's basically how to do it. I would do the same thing for this problem because it's simple enough to set it as the smallest number, and that's like it's in terms of. And I see a few places where people can possibly trip up, like maybe not reading consecutive even, or not realizing that they wanted the sum. So for this one, I think most people got like the idea of how to find the numbers. But I think, yeah, just be careful about that. I also saw someone made a sign error, and yeah, just don't, just be careful with these problems. And yeah, he basically hit everything. So I don't think there's much for this one. I think this is probably the easiest out of all the ones I have here today. So I'll just go on. And for number 4, um, I know the problem doesn't really make sense, but like I guess you can see that they're doing fractional work, like fractional amounts of work every minute on the cube, so they can work on the same cube. But yeah, it doesn't make much sense, um, and it's not the best problem in my opinion with that wording, and I can see why people tripped up on it anyways. So number 8, this might be the hardest one out of all of these. When Anil drives to work on the highway, he averages 45 miles an hour for the trip, but when he uses the back roads, he can only average 36 miles an hour. And the trip on the back roads is 3 miles shorter and takes 5 more minutes than the highway route. And how many miles long is the highway route? So does anybody have any ideas or any like starting points for this? Mm, all right. So for this problem, does anybody know like what's a good variable to declare and solve for? Yeah, Vincent.
So let t be the time and s be the speed. I mean the distance. So using the speed distance formula, the distance of the first one is s, so 45 over 60 times x equals s, and since the trip on the back roads is 3 miles shorter and takes 5 more minutes than the highway route, 36 over 60. The 60 is in the numerator. So 36x 36 times so 36x minus 3 over 60 equals s plus 5, or t plus 5. Sorry. That's for the back roads. The highway is t equals 45x over 60. And then we are trying to find for x. So the first equation subtracted by the second, the equation is negative 9x minus 3. Wait.
Alright, so I am getting a bit like confused by what Vincent was saying. But like you could do it this way using more than one variable. But if Vincent, if you have anything else you want to show, you can just private chat me. But I'll go with what I did for this. So they want how many miles long is the highway route. So I would set that as the variable. Say like maybe h probably. The highway route is h long, and then express everything in terms of that, including the given conditions. So we're given that the trip on the back roads is 3 miles shorter. So then that is h minus 3. And then it takes 5 more minutes though than the highway route, and we know the average speeds. So then the time taken for the highway route is h distance divided by 45. And that would be equal to the distance on the back roads over 36. And it's 5 more this takes 5 more minutes than that, so there's plus 5 here. And from this, right, and you have to convert all the units to be the same. So this is 1/12 of an hour. So now if you move the h's to one side, the constants to another, you get h over 9 if you group times 1/4 minus 1/5 is equal to 1/6, because 3 over 36 is also 1/12. So then you get h over 180, if I believe is 1/6, and then h is 30. So the highway is 30 miles long, so 30 should have been correct answer. For this problem, I think you should always try to first, if you like see the problem and it doesn't look that like bad or ugly, if you try to set the variable as what they're asking you, then you should definitely try that. Like in this case, how many miles long is the highway? And the second difficult part about this problem, I think, was using the conditions, because they don't directly give you how much time it takes, like all this 3 miles shorter, 5 more minutes. But you have to make sure you know how to set up this equation. For 3 miles shorter, I just, because I defined the variable as distance, so I could just express that like this. And then for 5 minutes more, I just wrote an equation using times like this. So yeah, that's an example of how to interpret these two conditions. And that is probably why most people missed this or weren't sure how to do this. So yeah, just keep this in mind. And if you need me to go over this again for you later, then I will. Then yeah, I will. I can always. All right. So on to the next problem. So this problem looks kind of hard when you read it, but it's not that difficult in my opinion. So Chris runs half the distance to school, averaging 6 miles an hour. He jogs the rest of the way to the school, averaging 4 miles an hour, and the whole trip takes him 25 minutes. And how many minutes will it take him to run the same way home if he averages 8 miles per hour the whole way? And just as a reminder again, make sure that you use the uniform units, like miles per hour versus minutes. You have to do the conversion. And that being said, does anybody have an approach or a start for this problem? All right, yeah, Leo, go ahead.
So he ran half of the distance, and then he ran half of the distance, but slower. So you could use the harmonic speed to calculate the average speed. Oh.
Yeah, that should be a valid approach to do it because he runs the same distance each time, right? The average speed would be the harmonic mean of 6 and 4, and that would be 40 over 10, which is 24 over 5. And then that took him 25 minutes or 5/12 of an hour. So his average and his the total distance he covered would be this times that, which is just 2 miles. So then if he averages 8 miles per hour the whole way, or oh yeah, if he averages 8 miles per hour the whole way, then you should get that. Then it takes him 2 miles over 8 miles an hour, which is just 1/4 an hour. It's equal to 15 minutes. It's because they asked for minutes. And yeah, the way Leo did it is right. That is one way of doing it. Finding the average speed first and then finding the distance, probably. Or you can just, like, I guess, directly do 5/12 times, like, or never mind. Or actually, no, yeah, you can just directly do like 5/12 times like 24/5 over 8 if you can work it out like that in your mind. That will also give you 1/4 of an hour. But yeah, that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is for this, since it's just the time that they want to ask, you don't really need to like go out of the way to calculate the distance and everything. You can just like set d as like the amount that he ran, and the time for the first part they gave you is d over 6 plus d over 4, and then that would be equal to 5/12, and they want you to find d over 8. And yeah, you can just solve for d and you'll get that pretty quickly in the same way. But yeah, there's more than one way of doing it. They're both right, and yeah, it's a good. Just keep in mind what average speed really is. It's not the average of two speeds if you're going to do it that way. So yeah, that's most of it for this problem. And don't be scared by the fact that they don't like explicitly give you a distance, because if they don't, it means that like it probably won't rely on that. Does anybody still have any questions or things they want to ask about any of these problems? All right. So if there are no questions, then I'll move on. So for linear equations and lines in the coordinate plane, the intercepts are defined as the points where a line intersects the axes. The x-intercept is where it intersects the x-axis. As you can see, there's one here. And the y-intercept similarly is where a line intersects the y-axis. So I just labeled the two intercepts of those lines, of this line, I mean. Recap the linear equation things. We didn't really go over much, but I believe all we went over was that slope is like rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x, and I'm pretty sure that was all we went through last time for lines. But yeah, so there's not that much. If you want to go over it, for this line, if you can see, this is there's this point on the line, and then there's this point here, and the x increases by 3 and the y increases by 1, so then the slope would be 1 over 3, I believe. And yeah, that's all that we did last time. So now, yeah, as I said, the intercepts are where a line intersects the axes. This is the x-intercept. This is the y-intercept for this line. Alright. The y-coordinate of the x-intercept, of course, will be 0 because it's on the x-axis. And vice versa, the x-coordinate of the y-intercept is always 0 because it's on the y-axis. Alright. So given that, the slope-intercept form follows from this, since like we know what a slope is now, and then we know what the intercept is. And that is the equation of the form y is equal to m times x plus b, where this value m here is a slope and the value b is the y-intercept. And you can think of it as like, the reason why this formula represents the points on a line is because you know the y-intercept is located at 0 comma b, or say like here, and then the slope is the y change over the x change. So then if you plug in x, since the x change, since like it starts at 0 comma b, the x change is just the same as the x coordinate in this case. So then yeah, like let's say you take this point, then this is the x, and then this is the x, or the x change from this point, and then you multiply it by m, and then you get this value, and then you add back b since that's where you start from, so it's b plus mx. It gives the y coordinate. And yeah, that's what slope intercept form, I guess that's how you interpret it, as like how you get the line from it. And yeah, just like it says here, you can think of it as rate of change and initial value given, b being the initial value, m being the rate of change. And so now, what are the slope intercept forms for these lines here? It's kind of hard to see, so I'll label a few points. I think this point over here would be 6 comma negative 1. This point looks like it's 4, 6. And then this point here, oh wait, you don't really need that, but I think that's negative 8, 3. Although I'm not too sure about that, yeah. Alright, so given those points, I'd like you all to find the slope-intercept forms of these lines. And if you can't see the y-intercept points really clearly, then I guess I'll mark them as well. This one looks like 5, this one looks like 3, and this one looks like -3. Alright, so given that, I would like you to find the slope-intercept forms of these 3 lines. I'll label them 1, 2, and 3 here. And like when you're done, you can just private chat me the answers. And just remember like what slope represents the change in y over the change in x, or the rise over the run. And the y-intercept is where it intersects the y-axis. And yeah, just direct message me your answer when you're done. The 1, 2, and 3 is referring to like the different lines. So like 1 is this line right here, 2 is this line, and then 3 is this one.
Can you like mark them out? I know you already marked out like some of them, but I can't really see the other ones.
Yeah, I can see the for
I can't
2.
really see the numbers, so I can't really solve anything other than 2.
Yeah, I can only see the like the points. I can't see the other.
Do you mean you can't see the y-intercept? Or sorry, I'm not really sure which number you're having a bit of trouble seeing.
Number
think-
1.
No,
Number
number
one.
2. Number 2. I can't see number.
Oh wait, the lines are already labeled, sorry, yeah. So just use the numbers on the side here for like which line it's referring to. And for the point, this was 4 comma 6 is this point here. And this, the y-intercept here is 5, The one here is 3. For those of you asking the x-intercept for number 2, it's not an integer and you don't need it for this exercise, so don't worry about it. And sorry, can everybody see the numbers of the intercepts and the points I marked now more clearly?
Are we supposed to find the slope also?
You need to find both the slope and the y-intercept to find the equation of the line. So the answer you should send me should be of this form. It should be an equation.
What do the y and x mean in the equation?
It means like the x and y coordinates of the line. All right. Yeah. Make sure to send your answer privately, but yeah, I'll take a look at it. The coordinates of lines 1 and 2 in the intersection, it's not an integer coordinate, I don't think. And you don't need that since I believe I already gave you enough points on each line. 6, I'll just write it here. 6, -1 is where lines 2, or is not 2, is where lines 3 and 1 intersect. I believe I've given you enough points on each line. All right, so let me those of you saying that it looks pretty blurry, sorry about that. I don't have a bigger image of this, but yeah, next time I'll try to get if the issue is that it's like too small and blurry, or yeah, for those, I think it's like maybe has something to do with internet and like the resolution of the video. Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're calculating the slope of each line, right?
No, we're finding the equations of the lines.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I see people are sending in answers. Most of you have been getting these right eventually, so that looks good. Mm, I'm still like waiting for more answers. So yeah, just I won't be talking for maybe a couple more minutes as people send in their things. Right, so for number 2, to clarify, this point on it, 4, 6 is on number 2, since someone asked. And then its y-intercept is 5. And that should be all you need to solve it. I think I'll wait maybe one more minute. Alright, so I see most people have sent in their answers, and most of them look right. So I'll get rid of this real quick. So given the information, I believe the first line 1, was y equals negative 2/3 x plus 3. The second line is y equals 1/4 x plus 5. Finally, the third one, y is equal to x over 3 minus 3. And the way you get these is using the points that were given to you and the y-intercept. So let me just go over this quickly. For number 1, okay, you already know b is 3 since I labeled the y-intercepts. And the slope would be, for 1, you have 6, -1 is on the line. And the y-intercept 0, 3 is on the line. Don't forget that. So then the slope would be -1 minus 3 over 6 minus 0. That comes out simplified to 2/3. So yeah, that gives your slope, and you have -2/3 x plus 3. Similarly for 2, the y-intercept is, is 5. You also know 4 comma 6 is on the line. So to calculate the slope, you use that and the y-intercept point 0.05 to get 6 minus 5 divided by 4 minus 0 is equal to 1/4. This is your slope. I saw some people getting 1/3. You might have been off by 1 in the denominator. But yeah, the slope is 1/4, the y-intercept is 5. So it's just y equals x times 1/4 plus 5. Just like that. Similarly, for the third last line, we have the y-intercept is -3. So yeah, right away 3 over there. We have 6, -1 is also on the line. So -1 minus the y-intercept's -3 over 6 minus 0 is equal to 1/3. So y equals 1/3 x minus 3. And so yeah, that's basically how you do these. I think most of you are getting this really well because most people got it correct on like their first or second tries. So that's good. And now for the next line form that we'll cover is point slope form. For this one, you just need one point that's on the line, and then you need the slope of the line. And then the line equation can be written like this. So if x1, y1 is the point that you're given, m is the slope that you're given, then you have y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Just to be clear, the y and the x represent y coordinate and x coordinate of the line, and meaning like they're variables. You can plug numbers in to solve one for to solve the other based off of one, whereas y1 and x1 you treat them as if they're like constant numbers that you're given. Just to be clear about that. All right. And the reason why you get this form is it's based off of the definition of slope, which is change in y over change in x. So like, let's say you have that given point to you, x1, y1. Again, treat x1 and y1 as if they're numbers that are given to you, just like 1, 2, and 3, say. And then you have this varying x coordinate. So then this is x minus x1. This is the change in x. And then you have the y coordinate, which is y minus y1. And then by definition of slope, you have this divided by this is equal to the slope. So yeah, that basically gives you the equation. You just multiply both sides by this, and you get point slope form. So then, given that, I want you to also find the point slope forms of these equations, and please leave it in this form here. So like I know that you get this. Like leave it. Like don't like move the y1 to the right side of the equation. Just leave it in this raw form. Given that for 1, as we found, the slope is -2/3, and it contains the point 6, -1. For 2, the slope is 1/4, and it contains the point, I'll just go with the y-intercept 0.5. And then 3, the slope is 1/3, and then the point you're given is, sorry. And then for 3, the point you're given is also 6, -1. And yeah, given the slope as well as one point that's on the line, yeah, please find the slope intercept forms of these 3 lines. We'll give everybody a couple minutes for this. Yeah. And if you're a bit confused, maybe treat these coordinates that I gave you as x1, y1 in this. And private chat me your answer when you're done. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of answers, and it seems like most of you are getting this. Right? It is a bit confusing, this new form, but yeah. All right, so I'll write it now. So for number 1, the slope-intercept form should just be y plus 1 or minus -1. So if you left it in like that, which is good, times x minus 6, 2 is y minus 5 equals to 1/4 x. This is just basic. You can view slope-intercept form as like a special case of point-slope form where you use the y-intercept as the point that's given to you in a way, which you can see with this line. And then the last line is y plus 1 is equal to 1/3 times x minus 6. So it seems most of you are getting this. I will address comments or questions you have with for me in chat. But for now, I need to go on. All right. Next thing I have, sorry, whoops, is the standard form of the line. It's of the form ax plus by equals c. I really don't like this form because, like, for point slope form and slope intercept form, it's easy to tell information about the line, but for standard form, it's not immediately apparent. But anyways, for this form, a is positive, and a, b, and c can't share any common factors. And to find the intercepts in the slope, the x-intercept is c divided by a, the y-intercept is c divided by b, and then the slope would be negative a over b. And I think the main reason you will need to know this form is because in math competitions they don't want you to like leave all those fractions in slope-intercept form, point slope form, so then they'll ask you to simplify it into this and then base your answer off of that. And so as a quick example, just send me in private chat the slope, x-intercept and y-intercept of the line 4x plus 5y is equal to 18. And yeah, this should take just a minute.
Which equations for what if in the c divided by a, c divided by b, and negative a divided by b part?
This is the x-intercept, this is the y-intercept, and then this is slope. And this is the line form you're given in standard form. All right, so I'll just go over this really quick. Sorry if I was a bit like quick in explaining, but if you want to find the x, so these numbers correspond to the x, y, and the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the slope for this line. All right, so then this line in standard form, 4x plus 5y is equal to 18. You can just say the x-intercept is this over this, so 18 fourths. The y-intercept is 18 fifth. This is just 9 halves. And then finally, the slope is negative 4 fifth. And yeah, that's all there is to this form, really. And yeah, okay. And just remember the condition that a is positive. None of the numbers share any common factors, a, b, and c. But I don't really think this form is like that useful in terms of solving problems. It's really just like something you have to put in your answer at the final stage. All right, so on to linear equations. Two lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. They can also be the same line, but yeah, they're parallel if they have the same slope. If they have the same y-intercept and the same slope, they are the same line. And they're perpendicular if their slope's product is -1, or in other words, they're negative reciprocals, such as 2's negative reciprocals is -1 divided by 2, or -1/2. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0. They're written as y equals k, or k is a constant. Vertical lines have an undefined slope and are written as x is equal to k, where k is a constant. And be careful about this. Sometimes, like, even I get this mixed up a little. Horizontal lines have y in their equations, whereas vertical lines have x. It seems counterintuitive, but if you think about it, it's true. Since in a horizontal line, the y-intercept, the y-coordinate is what does not change, and in the vertical line, the x-coordinate is what doesn't change. And alright, so given this information above with perpendicular slopes and parallel slopes, solve this question: what's the slope of a line perpendicular to y equals 3x plus 8? In addition, find a line parallel to this, a different line, not the same one. And yeah, just send me your answer in chat. Just to clarify, for the line that's perpendicular, I just want the slope, but for the line that's parallel, give me a whole equation for that. Alright, so I see most people are getting it. Most people sent me. I got a lot of answers for perpendicular slope. So that's the slope of a line perpendicular is just -1 divided by the slope of this line, which is 3. So it's -1/3. Just to make sure you multiply this by 3, you should get -1. It doesn't matter what line it is, unless it's horizontal and vertical. Horizontal and vertical lines are perpendicular, so just remember that. Alright, so yeah, otherwise if you multiply the slopes of two perpendicular lines, you should always get -1. Alright, so yeah, for in-class problems, write the standard form for ax plus by equals c of the equations, which has the x and y intercept of this one switched around. And yeah, after this, I think we'll end the class for today, actually. And then for the second question, what is the length of the graph y equals 4/3 x minus 8? What part of this is within the fourth quadrant? It's okay if you don't get the second question. That one's like it takes a bit of thought. So yeah, I'll solve these. And I've written here for standard form of a line, ax plus by equals c. The x, y-intercept, and slope in that order are c divided by a, c divided by b, and -a divided by b. And remember, you have to switch the x and y-intercepts of that line's equation, of the line represented by that equation. Sorry if I didn't make it clear before how you solve for the x-intercept of the line. But the way you do it is you set the y-coordinate equal to 0, and then you solve for the value of x, since the x-intercept is where it hits the x-axis, so the y is 0 there. The y value is 0. And so given that, solve for the x-intercept, and then based off of that, find the standard form with the intercepts swapped. And I've written the stuff in the upper right-hand corner. Alright, so I'll give people, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 more minutes on this. And yeah, I'll get back to your answers as soon as possible. Alright, so it's been a couple of minutes, so I'll just go over this real quick. So for number 1, you have that the y-intercept is -8, as you can see, because it's in slope-intercept form. To solve for the x-intercept, it's where it intersects the x-axis. So y is equal to 0, and so 4/9 x minus 8 is equal to 0. So 4/9 x is equal to 8, and then x is equal to 18. Should be. And then, yeah, based off that, you can get, I believe it was, so you can solve for that in slope-intercept form first, and then convert it back, maybe. So I believe the answer should be 9x minus 4y is equal to -72. There are all these negative signs, but just remember, the coefficient of x is the one that's always positive, and there's no common factor that divides all 3 of them. So how do I get the y-intercept is -8? Well, it's just because this is written in slope-intercept form, and the constant is -8, and that is the y-intercept. Alright, so yeah, that's just basically it for number 1. Just find the swapped intercepts first, and then find the lines equation based off of that in slope-intercept form, then convert it. So for number 2, they want you to find the length of the graph within the fourth quadrant, and it's okay if you don't know the formula necessary for the last one, although I'm pretty sure a lot of you do anyway, because I got many correct answers. And as I said, in the fourth quadrant, x is greater than or equal to 0 and y is less than or equal to 0. So we have this line. It helps to draw a picture often for these kind of problems. Like this, it intersects, so this whole part is the fourth quadrant. It intersects the x-axis somewhere here, the y-axis somewhere there. You solve for those intersections, those are just the intercepts of the line. So we know there's one point, one of the intercepts is 0, -8. Other border point is 1 4/3 x minus 8 is equal to 0. Then that would make x is equal to 6, so then it intersects at 6, 0. And then use the distance formula on these 2 points to get 0 minus 6 squared plus -8 minus 0 squared. And we didn't cover this yet, so it's okay if not all of you know this. Is equal to 10 if you know your Pythagorean triples well, and you can also just expand it out. Alright, so yeah, number 2, the answer is 10. Number 1, the answer is 9x minus 4y equals -72. And we're running a bit on short on time for lessons, so I'll try and fix that and change it, and we might have to like move or extend times if necessary. But yeah, that's all for today's class. Thank you everyone, and class is now dismissed.
Thanks, William. I'll see you next week.
Thank you so much. Bye.